Welcome to another edition of Flemings Forum. We're about to start our 4th season of Flemings Forum, and this year we're going to start with our new principal, Mr. Ellsasser. Mr. Ellsasser, thanks for joining us. I know you've been doing the circuit on TV with Mr. Conrad, and now you can lighten it up a little bit and be on my show, and you get a chance to maybe put yourself out there and explain some unanswered questions some students might have or some people in the community. So let's start by saying, a brief, I know you did it on Mr. Conrad's show, talked about your background, but tell the kids how you got back to Nauset, because I know you're a graduate.
So how I got back to Nauset. I graduated here in '82 and then went to Brandeis University, met my wife. My plan was to be an author. Her plan was to be a lawyer. She had a much better plan, so I followed her out to Southern California. Fell into teaching because I was painting houses and delivering the Los Angeles Times and waiting tables, kind of all at the same time when she was in law school. And I found out you could make $100 a day as a substitute teacher. So I thought that's a better gig than carrying a ladder around in the sun. So I was a substitute PE teacher for a year in elementary and middle school. And then after that, I got a job as a high school teacher, English teacher, and I was a soccer coach, a cross-country coach, and a track coach in California. Soccer's in the fall, and cross-country is in the winter, and then I had track in the spring. And then became a professor of education and worked in an area called South Central Los Angeles, where my wife was also a criminal defense attorney for the public defender's office. We always wanted to come home. We thought we'd go out there for law school for a couple of years and then come back. And then I got a job and she got a job. And so eventually what brought us home was we have twin boys who are 10. And when they were born, after flying them across the country twice, which is kind of a nightmare, we decided it's time to go home so they'll know family. And I had always hoped that I would be able to return to my community and my school and kind of serve the students and the families with everything that I had learned, but I never imagined the job would ever become available. And then I was actually at my computer looking at different jobs, which is a thing that I would do, just kind of see what opportunities are out there. And up on a website came the opening for the Nauset High School principal. So I was like, all right, I'll send in my stuff and we'll see what happens. And within a month, I had the job. So it took 30 years and a super short amount of time and landed back here. So it let my family move back to the Cape where we wanted to raise our boys and gave me the job that I had always dreamed of having. So I'm a lucky guy.
So it's like a 30-year bungee cord.
Yes.
Snapped you back home.
Yep, that's pretty much what happened. We always wanted to return to the Cape, and I have lots of friends who moved away and always wanted to come back. And it's not as easy as you would think. We needed to have the right job and the right situation. So, a lot of good karma came our way, and it all happened at once. We were like, okay, we had a house on the Cape for a couple of years, so we moved out of a boarding school and into the home that we had spent some summers on. And so my kids wanted to make a deal with me. We've moved quite a bit in their lives, and so they made me promise that we would not move again. And I was like, boys, we're not going anywhere. We're all set. So it's good to be home.
It's funny starting to know you from July 1st when we both started this new school year. We start in July. It was family first for you.
Yep, always.
And that is clear in your story, that your wife and your two boys are number one, and then everything else kind of comes into play. And what a better place to bring them up.
Yeah, and I think being a teacher, being in education, we have this opportunity to live the talk and be a role model or examples for the young people who are around us. My first teaching job after the PE teacher, I taught 4th grade for a year, and if you ever want to check your hypocrisy at the door, be an elementary school teacher, because you spend most of the day talking about character and how to behave and be the best person, and then you have to model that yourself. So I think as a teacher in a school, we need to be at our best because the students are watching. I think a lot of what they're wondering is, what does it mean to grow up and be an adult? Do you get to do a job that you love? Do you interact with people that you care about? Do you have time for good nutrition, time to be healthy, and time for your family? So in that way, we've got, our job description is kind of to live the life that we hope other people will have. So we're lucky.
Like you said, we're about 3 months in. Yeah, 3 months. Is it what you expected, or what you thought it would be, or what you remember this place as? Because physically it doesn't look the same as when we were here as students.
Yeah, so the way I describe this when I talk with my friends or my wife is that ever since I left the Cape in 86, because I went to college from 82 to 86, it was like 86, 87, moved to California, and I've felt restless ever since then. And we just weren't in the right situation. I wasn't in the right job exactly. I think I've always wanted to be the leader of a school and been kind of frustrated to not be in that position earlier. And we've always wanted to live near the ocean in a small town, and preferably in a place where one of us grew up. My wife grew up in Halifax, Massachusetts, but the Cape is home for me. So what's happened since we moved back here is that restlessness and that waiting for the next thing for me has gone away. And I just feel really at home, like this was a thing that was meant to be in some way. So just that feeling of being home in the job and in the place, and I feel like I have a good connection with the people who are here. I mean, my only frustration is that I'm not able to, I don't have a relationship with everybody who's here. That's going to take time. And I'm a people person. I think the quality of someone's education is dependent on their relationship with the people around them. So I'm looking forward to getting to know more and more people in the school. But that's I want to kind of hurry up and have it be 3 years from now or 2 years from now when I'm all in and I know everybody and everybody knows me. So I'm just going to have to be patient, but it feels good.
For the students, though, I remember we were talking earlier today, you're during the third block, you're always out and about. Yesterday you were in the courtyard meeting with students, just on a very low-key manner, just pop in and see you. You were at a picnic table and just...
Yeah, so I sit at I was meeting with some students and asked how could I spend more time with students? And they said, well, what about lunch? So I went into my calendar and I set aside the 3 lunch periods on, it's pretty much every Thursday. There might be one time when it has to be on a Friday. And I'm a very low-key, kind of mellow person. I'm not up in your face. So I sit on a bench, and I sat on the bench yesterday and I talked to probably 15 different students. And I'm hoping over time more and more people will come and sit down and talk about concerns that you have, questions that you have. We can talk about anything that you want. It's I'm an open book, and so I think that's a great opportunity. I mean, who else has a job where they can sit for an hour and just wait for people to come up and talk with them? So, someone actually said, I was sitting on the bench and somebody said, so when's the bus coming? Right, you're waiting for a bus, and I said, I hope it never comes, because I don't want to ever have to get up from that bench.
Frequently yesterday, we're in the courtyard, and someone says, "Where's Mr. Ellsasser?" He's over there talking with a student. But can I talk to him? I go, go ahead, right over there.
I'm not an intimidating guy, I don't think. I know I have this title, and it will take me a while to get to know everybody and people to know me. But I have a big sign over my head that I don't literally have that says, please come and talk to me. I want to get to know you. I think if I imagine the ideal school, it's a school where the adults are in the background and the students are running the show. So this is a good example. So for this show, we're surrounded by students who are making the show happen, and the two of us are just talking, right? So that's what the school should be. I hope people can come and visit the school and see how serious the students are, see how well they get along with each other, and be surprised that there aren't adults managing their business and there aren't bells going off, and we're respectful of the kids who are here, and they own their school. It's their school. I think the administration is here to serve the teachers and the students in whatever way that we can. I don't think leadership comes from mandates from the top. I think it comes from listening to what people need and then being able to provide those services. It's a service job.
That's a great segue into, we had a meeting with the student council a few days ago, and they were just chatting. They wanted to get to know Mr. Ellsasser, which is easy. The three administrators went down there, had a great conversation, and we spun into, they were asking about discipline, because there's some questions out there about our philosophy on discipline, and to be honest, we are looking at discipline a whole different way. And we took the summer to study restorative justice, and everybody's going, what is restorative justice? Mm-hmm. And so we explained it to the student council kids, and we said we want to take it one step further and say, we have a 50-page student handbook. We want to make it, did we say 10, right? About 10 pages, if you can do it.
At the most.
Yes. That document that you're supposed to all read, students, shouldn't be 51 pages long. It should be small, and guess who should put it together? The students.
Yeah.
So we went on that, and Mr. Ellsasser asked the kids, I'd like you guys to make the discipline. You make up the discipline. You make up the how the language looks in the handbook. So we got that conversation going, and then we discussed restorative justice, which you do a good job of explaining it. We've read a book on restorative justice over the summer as a professional development, and it's pretty eye-opening, because for me, this is my 4th year at Nauset, it fits our culture here. Mm-hmm. It really does. The punitive stuff that typically the court system uses is not the best, because as we always say, we're teachers.
Yeah.
We're teachers, and we're not policemen. So we need to teach people, and if they stray off the tracks, we need to teach them. So just kind of piggyback on what I was.
Yeah. Well, so I guess so the research on character development and discipline, particularly in schools, shows that the punitive system doesn't work. And the punitive system is where you have a list of behaviors and then you have a list of responses. So if you skipped a class, this happens to you. If you disrespected a teacher, then this happens to you. So it's very black and white. And what the research shows is that doesn't really impact student behavior. And so restorative justice is about reframing discipline in a school so that it's more education-based than punishment-based. It asks that you differentiate your discipline in the same way you would differentiate any kind of instruction. So 2 students may do the same thing, but the responses may have to be very different. One student might be consistently late to the first block. And for that student, there's something going on at home. They're caring for their siblings and having to get their little sister to the elementary school early in the morning, and that's why they keep showing up late. So you would respond to that in a certain way. Another student might be showing up late because they had an issue with the person who's in that class, and there's something going on with the relationship between 2 students. You'd have another response for that. Another student might be coming late to that first block because they're not interested in the subject matter, or they are not really feeling like school is the place where they need to be. You need a different response to that. So same behaviors, 3 different responses based on the kids. So what you do in restorative justice is the emphasis is on collaboration, lots of conversations, education, and making it right. So when a student chooses behavior that doesn't align with the school's expectations, so here's the kid and here's the behavior. They're 2 different things. So you're talking to the kid about the behavior and saying, okay, you're a good kid. This behavior didn't work for you. Why did you choose that? And you have a conversation with them until you figure out what the cause of that choice is. And then you identify what that student has to learn. What's the education that has to happen? Just like if you had made a mistake in an English class on a piece of writing, as your English teacher, I'm not going to punish you for that. I'm going to teach you how to develop stronger evidence in your paragraph or whatever else is going on. So then the student goes and does that education, learns and demonstrates that, okay, now I get it. Now I understand more than I did before, so I would make a different choice. And then the other question is, how do you make what you did right with the people who were impacted? And this is where conversation happens about intent and impact. So if I do something, a good example is, so if I throw a Frisbee at you and it hits you in the face and your nose is bleeding, it doesn't matter that I didn't mean to hit you. What matters is that the Frisbee hit you in the face. It's the impact of what I did that matters. And it's not enough for me to just say, oh, I didn't mean it. I need to go a step further and say, are you okay? Can I do anything to help you? I'm sorry about what happened. So I need to care for you, not just think about what I was doing. So we go to the students and we say, so who did your behavior impact? How are you going to make it right with your peers, with your teacher, with your coach, with your family, with the school, so that at the end of the experience, you learned what you needed to learn, and you went around and made it right with all the people who were impacted. And then there's been an educational response so you can be in a different place as a person. The other thing restorative justice is supposed to do is when somebody makes a mistake, the school pulls that person in close to try and help them and care for them based on the assumption that you are a good person who wants to do the right thing. That's always the assumption that we're operating out of. So what can we do to help?
I like the example we use, like they say, oh, what are you going to do about tardiness? And what does that have to do with restorative justice? Well, there's a lot of people impacted there.
Mm-hmm.
You impact yourself because you're not in class on time.
Yep.
You impact the, let's say, 17 other kids that are in the class when you come in and disrupt the environment which has already started.
Yep.
And you impact the teacher who has to stop what they are doing, bring you up to speed, and continue with the lesson. Yep. So the impact is easily pointed out on that one.
Yeah,
and that's one of our, we don't have a problem with it, but that's a good thing that that's one of our issues.
Yeah, and I think that's a good example of somebody who's coming late to school is not intending to impact all those people in that way, but they are. And what we can do as educators is we can point that out, and usually the response is, oh, I had no idea. Mm-hmm. That's not what I was trying to do. I'm late because of these reasons. And usually there's appreciation for the opportunity to go and have a conversation with a teacher, have a conversation with the peers, because everybody wants to be right with the people who are around them. At the 3 o'clock in the morning in probably the most private, isolated space that anybody can be in, we all want to be the best version of ourselves. And when it comes to people who make choices that are the wrong choices for them, we need to work with that person who wants to be the best that they can be and help them figure out how to make a different choice. Because you aren't your behavior, you're the choices that you make. And there's a difference around that.
Right. So restorative justice is something brand new for us. I think it's starting to develop, which is, you got to start somewhere. And it's on its way to becoming part of the culture because I think it fits our culture at Nauset. And we're going to keep going with it. And
well, it's also helpful maybe to know that there are other schools all around the country who are making the same shift. at the secondary level and at the college level. So colleges are no longer necessarily kicking students out for behavior. They're providing education and support and counseling to understand why those students are making the choices that they're making. So there's a shift in education that's really recognizing that character development, social, emotional learning, all of those things are part of what a school does. So we need to help young people understand the choices they're making, the impact that it has on other people, and treat that as an opportunity for education and growth, not as some punishment we're going to push you away, or in the worst case scenario, say you can't come back to school. Why would a school push somebody out who's made a mistake when that's a sign that really they need help?
Mm-hmm. You're getting out in the community real soon because I know your calendar. I happen to know your calendar. You're going to be out meeting with parents and in the community in the different towns throughout the region and all the way from Provincetown down to Brewster. Explain what your goals are for that in getting off of campus in a more casual environment.
Well, I think one of the things that's hard for a school when there's a new leader is that you don't really know who that person is. You don't really know what they represent. It's hard to, over time you get to know them. So I'm trying, whether it's through visiting classes to get to know the teachers, or it's setting aside a lunch block every week to get to know the students, being able to go out in the community and talk with families is my way of trying to fast track that getting to know each other as much as possible. I mean, I feel bad that everybody has a new principal. I don't feel bad that it's me. I think it's the right match, but I can empathize with people wanting to know, who is this person? What do they stand for? Why are they here? Am I aligned with them? Am I not aligned with them? So in an ideal world, you know, if I had magical power, I would have a 10-minute, 15-minute conversation with every single person in the community, and somehow that would all take an hour. So I can't do that. So I'm just trying to make myself as available as I can to families and students and teachers, and know that over time we'll get to know each other. The relationship between families and students and teachers and the leader of a school is an important thing. I need to know where people are coming from, what they believe, what they want, what they care about, and I want them to be able to hear where I come from based on my experiences. And you know, I have a fairly unique story of someone who grew up here, went out into the world and taught and worked in a lot of different places, and then came back. So I have a kind of two things spinning in my head: everything I've learned on the outside and everything that I know about being a local, and trying to figure out how those two things go together. And I love to talk to people, and I love to tell stories. So it's actually kind of the best part of my job, is to just talk with people.
And how are the folks going to see that? They could see it on our bulletin every Friday at noon that gets sent out to the parents throughout the district?
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is, just like we sent out an email to students to let them know about the lunchtime, and hopefully more and more students will come, and this can be a tradition that can go, you know, for many years. And we send out a weekly bulletin to families every Friday. So once we get my schedule organized, we'll identify the evenings and the towns and the places, and then just put out a note. And again, hopefully that becomes a norm where every month or so I can be available in a town library or a town hall, and anybody who wants to come and talk education — I love to talk education — can come and have a conversation with me, because we want to be transparent as a school. We want to be accessible as individuals, and there's a lot of us, so I think we also just need to be patient.
That's great. Now, coming up here at school, we have a couple of good things coming up. Next week is Spirit Week, which is you're coming out of the private school education. Did they have Spirit Week?
I mean, every school has its own version
Celebration.
of Spirit Week and celebrate. And I guess what I'm looking forward to is an opportunity to have a really inclusive experience, where, you know, it's talking with some of the student organizers, and my hope would be that anybody who's new, and doesn't feel comfortable and at home yet, by the end of that week they would. So for everyone here who has been around for a while, it's a time to reach out to people who are new and pull them in close. And because I think the thing to celebrate the most about our school is the vibe on campus and the familiarity and the way that everybody is kind to each other. That to me is the biggest thing to celebrate.
And I say it all, I preach it all the time. I mean, this is a very unique campus when it comes to the relationships of the students, and it's a great feel. And like you said, for that small percentage of kids that are new for some reason, haven't connected yet, it's early in the year. This is the connection week, right? This is it, and then you're gonna have a lot of fun. There's a lot of opportunities in and out of school to make the connections. I think student council does a great job of organizing it. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, it's gonna be a good time. All right, so we've gone over. Oh, and then the calendar. We talk about everything comes out on that calendar. Down the road, we're working on a calendar for. Right now, the staff has it.
Yeah.
The administrative staff has it. We're going to try to get it out to the kids to have one calendar, correct?
Yeah, what we'd like to do is for each student to be able to look on their phone and see everything they need to know for that day. When blocks begin, when blocks end, if there's an event or a meeting on campus that you can just click on that and the information can come up. So we're working with a Google Calendar, and the idea would be you look at your day, you see all the blocks, you see all the events. If there's an event that you want to know something about, you just click on the event and up comes all the information. So we're trying to streamline communication so that people aren't inundated by emails, and we also recognize that people pretty much live a day at a time.
Yep.
So a phone can be a very helpful tool. So I have my phone and I look at my calendar. I'm like, so where do I need to be next and who do I need to talk to? It's all in that one space. So it's a way to use technology to so everybody has their own private assistant that's telling them where to go and what's happening and how to organize their day. So again, we're trying to, what do students need to have an organized and simplified day? We think a calendar will help with that. So we're trying to build it, and then we'll test it and go back with students back and forth until we get it right.
One-stop shopping.
That's the idea, that you go
Yep.
to one place for all the information that you need. When you're at school, you're not scrolling through your emails. We don't want anybody to miss anything.
Perfect. Well, folks, that was a great first addition to Flemings Forum. I look forward to coming back in another week or so with another exciting episode. Thank you, Dr. Ellsasser, for joining us. And don't forget, he's got that big sign up. Come see him. Ask the questions. He'll give you the answers. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in another episode. Thank you.